Welcome, I'm the Deadwood Jedi, and today we're going to do another video in the Clan Boss speed tuning series that I've been working on. This one actually comes straight from a subscriber of mine, one of my first subscribers, Alan Rowe. He had asked if I could do this, I think after one of the first videos I ever put up, and so I figured it seems that's about time, why not? So this is going to be a double counterattack composition. And I know not everyone has a counterattacker, not to mention two of them. But if you do, this is a super helpful composition to run. The speeds are low, it's simple to tune it, and honestly, it can sustain your team so much longer in a fight that you're able to last at least to like turn 40 or so on Ultimate Nightmare, really do some serious damage to the clan boss, and I think, truthfully, potentially 2-key it. I'm not quite able to get there with my squad, but I'm not a huge whale. I don't have that kind of a depth of champions to really show it off, but I still think the amount of damage we're able to do is pretty impressive. It's not far off what I normally do with my clan boss team, which is a 2-key composition. Now, if you are interested in tuning your team, maybe you have these champions, maybe you don't, I do recommend you visit my website here, deadwoodjedi.com. I have a speed calculator designed specifically for the clan boss, and on there you can tune your team and see how all the turns are going to break down. It's a really helpful tool. I use it almost every single day. We also have a list of speed tunes as well, and you can go and check that list out, and by doing that you can actually maybe just plug and play some of your champions. A lot of it's already been worked out for you, so it's a great resource, and at the very least it's a good template from which to start from, and then you can fine-tune and speed your own team off of that. So got a couple resources there I wanted to point out at the top of the video. I'm not going to talk about that anymore. We're going to get right into it here. I'm going to show you how this is done. Alan, this one's for you. When running a double counterattack speed composition, the speeds the champions are running at is actually pretty simple. It's not altogether different from a normal clan boss composition. For example, all your champions need to be is somewhere between 171 and 189 or 191 and 209, depending on whether you're running Nightmare or Ultimate Nightmare, or you can even mix it up if you'd like. The important thing is the order in which the champions go. So it doesn't matter if your counterattacker is running at 171 speed or at 185 speed, as long as all the other champions are moving faster than them. That's typically the way this works. Now with a double counterattack composition, it is slightly trickier, only in the sense that one champion and only one champion can go last. So you have to figure out which one you want to have that final position. The importance of being a counterattack champion and going last in the order means that when you put your counterattack buff, like right now, it's going to stay on for a full 2 turns for all of your champions. That means, in this case, when Valkyrie puts up the counterattack buff, it's available for not only the AoE that happened, but the AoE that will come up after. And that's important. That'll allow, in this composition, Skullcrusher to have both of his counterattacks. And that's going to mean more damage, because your team is taking more attacks. But what about Skullcrusher? I can hear you asking. Well, it's a good question. Skullcrusher obviously can't go last, and this can create a problem. If Skullcrusher doesn't go last, then he's going to put up his counterattack buff on everybody for 2 turns, except the champion that goes after him, Valkyrie. Because he's putting it up second, and because Valkyrie goes after him, that means it's only going to be, in effect, a 1-turn buff, because the first turn of that counterattack is being used by Valkyrie going after the Skullcrusher and before the clan boss. So how do we make sure that Valkyrie doesn't get stunned afterwards? Because that will throw off everything. If Valkyrie gets stunned, or Skullcrusher, or whoever your counterattacker is, what that means is their cooldown is extended by 1 turn, which means they're going to be thrown out of tune, which means you're not going to get the counterattacks up when you want, and you're not going to get all the attacks you want, and you're not going to do as much damage. So how do we avoid this? Well, I figured for my team, the way I would avoid it was I would put a tank in between the speeds of Valkyrie and Skullcrusher, and in this case, that tank is Tyrell. Tyrell's my lead champion.
I can afford to have Tyrell take a stun since I don't have a cleanser like Bad Alcazar on my team. Now, yes, I have Steel Skull, but you have to manual his cleanse. He doesn't do it automatically. So in this scenario, I don't really have a cleanser available. So I need my person who takes a stun to just tank it and move on. Because Tyrell's a good choice for this, I don't mind him taking the stun at all. And the way I'm going to make that happen is when Skull Crusher puts up his unkillable buff and counterattack buff on everybody, which he does right there, Tyrell takes the turn right after, as does Valkyrie. But you'll notice they both have a 1-turn cooldown on their counterattack buff, and that's perfect. That means that buff will fall off by the time they fight the clan boss. By the time the clan boss comes in to do the stun, and that's what I want. You'll see right there it falls off of Tyrell and it falls off of Valkyrie. And I have 3 champions without it. The clan boss, as always, will choose the lead champion, in this case Tyrell. And that's how I make the double counterattack composition work. If you're trying to run a double counterattack composition with a martyr, I definitely recommend using this method where you have Skull Crusher being the second champion going. The reason being is that Skull Crusher is going to better be able to take this big hit with his unkillable, and Martyr with the increased defense but no shield will probably do better on the first AoE. That said, I don't have a Martyr, so I'm not an expert on this. I could very well be wrong. And you'll see in the second composition that it might not even matter one way or the other, as the 2 runs are pretty equitable as far as the damage they do. So I'm going to go ahead and let this run play out, and then I'll pick it up with the second one and talk about how that changes things slightly.
are now watching the throne.
Alright, so we're getting up to turn 40 here, which is pretty impressive. We just lost Tyrell, so the run's not going to last too much longer. But if you think an unkillable team lasts all the way to turn 50, and we're all ready to turn 40, and this is by all means not an unkillable team. That's pretty impressive. We're already up to 32 million damage as well. 35 is that magic number for Ultimate Nightmare because that's the 2 key range that you want to be in. So being at the 32 plus is pretty good, I would say. And we're all the way up to turn 43, I think it's going to be. That's a pretty impressive run all in all. Now, this next run I'm going to show you guys is going to be the exact same team. And in all honesty, it's going to have pretty close to the exact same result. But the interesting thing I did here was I reversed the order in which the counterattackers went. Now, you're going to say, what's the big deal with that? Well, it's going to change a little bit how you want to approach this. So you'll see here, Skull Crusher is going to go on the first AoE. So since our team's slower, that means Valkyrie goes first and puts up her shield. One of the things you'll notice, as I talked earlier, was about the timing in which the counterattackers go. Well, Valkyrie's the slowest champion right now. That means I don't have to worry about having someone go after her. I also don't have to worry about the counterattack buff falling off of anyone because they're going to have it up 100% of the time. And that's what happens here as the stun comes in, and it should go straight for Tyrell because they all have counterattack up. Except for the first couple turns where we have to get in sync. And that's why it's going to be off just slightly. But it falls off of Tyrell as we're still syncing up, and so that'll just be just fine. After about, I would say, 2 or 3 cycles of the clan boss moves, we should be in sync. Now, Skull Crusher puts up his counterattack for the first AoE. He's unkillable, so he won't die. He's got ally protection on, meaning all the allies are going to be taking less damage. And there's still some residue from Valkyrie's shield helping to protect everybody. So we're very safe on that one. Skull Crusher is still faster than Tyrell and Valkyrie once we get into the full sync, which means that his ally protection won't be on the full team. He's only going to take extra damage from Rosin and Steel Skull. That's actually good for us. My Tyrell has a lot of defense. My Valkyrie has a lot of defense. They don't need the ally protection that Skull Crusher has. And because he's sharing it with less champions, that means he's taking less damage, which means he should survive longer into the fight. And that's a good thing. It's one of the advantages of this style of speed tune with the double counterattack. Having the slowest champion actually go second can be beneficial as opposed to detrimental. So that's pretty much it as far as the way these two different types of counterattack compositions can work. You have one champion slowest and another champion not slowest, and then you alternate which one goes when. Now, in this composition where I have Skull Crusher going first, he can be the second slowest champion. He could actually be the fastest champion. But the more champions that go before him, the more champions that are going to have his ally protection for the second AoE. And in that case, I would want all my squishy champions, my attack champions like a Draco or maybe even a Rhodos, all my champions that are utility like a Steel Skull or maybe like a Poisoner such as Frozen Banshee. I would want all of them to go before Skull Crusher so that they have the advantage of his ally protection for both attacks. That's going to help them stay longer since typically those are the champions that die first. In this case, you'll notice that they aren't the ones that go out first. I believe it's Tyrell that ends up dying first, and a big part of that is having the ally protection on the other champions. And we do last quite a long time in this. And again, optimizing the run would make us do better damage, but I think you'll get an idea for how this works. And other than that, it's mostly personal preference on what you feel is most effective for you. So with that, I'm going to let you watch the rest of the run, and I'll come back in at the end. towards the end of this battle here, you're going to notice that what ends up happening is because we have the shield from Valkyrie coming on the second, before the second AoE, after the stun, and because we don't have a cleanser, Tyrell, when he gets severely hit on the stun, there's just no recovery for him. And that means the attack break falls off, and then the whole thing falls apart. If you had a cleanser like a bad Alcazar, this run would be significantly more effective. But you'll see him go down, I believe, right here. And we're already at turn 40, which, as I said before, I think is pretty darn impressive. And we're over 30 million damage, which again puts us in that 2 key range, safely in the 3 key Ultimate Nightmare range. So all in all, a pretty good run. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and if you want to see more like this or something different, go ahead and leave a comment about what you would like me to talk about, and obviously subscribe, like the video. All that means a lot to me, it really does. And check out the site. It has a lot of information for you guys. But till next we meet, I'm the Deadwood Jedi.